Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with our host, Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
WCAT Radio presents The Messenger, with messages of things happening in the Catholic Church. And now here he is, the messenger, Tony Szalkiewicz. Tony, good to have you back.
Nice speaking with you, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited.
Yeah, we have a guest tonight. I'm excited about it also.
I'm excited about that, too.
Now, did you want to share that?
Yeah. Your friend Bill sent me a beautiful joke.
Okay.
There were two Catholic boys, Timothy Murphy and Antonio Scacola, whose lives paralleled each other in amazing ways. In the same year, Timothy was born in Ireland. Antonio was born in Italy. Faithfully, they attended parochial school from kindergarten through their senior year in high school. They took their vows to enter the priesthood early in college and upon graduation became priests. Their careers had come to amaze the world, but it was generally acknowledged that Antonio Scacola was just a wee cut above Timothy Murphy in all respects. They rise through the ranks of bishop, archbishop, and finally cardinal, was swift to say the least, and the Catholic world knew that when the present pope died, it would be one of the two who would become the next pope. In time, the pope did die, and the College of Cardinals went to work. In less time than anyone had expected, white smoke rose from the chimney, and the world waited to see whom they had chosen. The world, Catholic, Protestant, and secular, was surprised to learn that Timothy Murphy had been elected pope. Antonio Scacola was beyond surprise. He was devastated because even with all of Timothy's gifts, Antonio knew he was just a bit better qualified. With gall that shocked the cardinals, Antonio Scacola asked for a private session with them in which he candidly asked, "Why Timothy?" After a long silence, an old cardinal took pity on the bewildered man and rose to reply, "We knew you were the better of the two, but we could just not bear the thought of the leader of the Roman Catholic Church being called," wait for it, Pope Scacola. That is funny.
Sounds like one of your jokes, Tony.
That's a good one.
Isn't that good?
That's a good one.
Pope Scacola.
Yeah, that's good. So
that could happen.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there are some people of name Scacola.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Before I introduce John,
something close.
Yeah. So before I introduce John, I want to read something to you too.
Okay.
And this is something that I also got by a special friend there.
All right.
And it's called Death, a wonderful way to explain it. A sick man turned to his doctor as he was preparing to leave the examination room, and he said, "Doctor, I am afraid to die. Tell me, what lies on the other side?" Very quietly, the doctor said, "You don't know? You're a Christian man, and you don't know what's on the other side?" The doctor was holding the handle of the door. On the other side came a sound of scratching and whining. As he opened the door, a dog sprang into the room and leaped on him with an eager show of gladness. Turning to the patient, the doctor said, "Did you notice my dog? He's never been in this room before. He didn't know what was inside. He knew nothing except that his master was here, and when the door opened, he sprang in without fear. I know little of what is on the other side of death, but I do know one thing. I know that my master is there, and that is enough."
Beautiful.
Is that nice?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So without reserve, I have to start this way. John mentored and taught me everything I know. He made me do that, and I wish he'd take the gun away from my head. So a little introduction for John. I've known John for several years. For the past 10 years, John Campbell has been a member of the Archdiocese of Hereford's Campus Ministry Office and is the lay Catholic chaplain and member of the chaplain ministry teams at Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College. Before that, John spent 11 years as a director of youth ministry for the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And before that, served as a retreat director and director of development for Capuchin Youth and Family Ministries in Garrison, New York. John was also a volunteer youth minister, CYO coach, and confirmation catalyst for over 10 years at St. Pius the Parish in Middletown, Connecticut. John holds an MA in Religious Studies at Sacred Heart University. And John and I served together for about 6.5 years in youth ministry at St. Pius, the church in Middletown, Connecticut. So John, I welcome you. Welcome on board.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to do a two-front approach. I want to know what's happening at the university with these students, and what your insight, if you can give us some insight as to how these kids are reacting to current religious studies and current events.
Well, one of the things you have to always realize about this younger generation is that they're all about relationship, and that's what we as a church are all about, is relationship. But it's how we bring our message of the church to our young people that really tells if they're going to follow us or if they're going to walk away from us. And so one of the things that we do at both universities is we just try to encounter the young people, encounter the students. So I spend a lot of time during my day sitting with young people, talking to them about what they do during their day, what their lives are about their families, about their friends. And then we eventually come around to, the problems they're going through, the things they're going through, and how their Catholic faith, or if they're not Catholic, how our faith in God can help them in their everyday lives.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, I know you've been involved with the Appalachian projects, too.
That's right.
How many years have you been doing that?
Well, 23 years, 23 summers, we took a group of between 70 and 90 people down to Harlan County, Kentucky, to do mission work. And that's a group of high school, college, young adults, and adults. And that's always been a great adventure for us, to go down and to actually help people repair their homes, help people who are in nursing homes, to visit them, visit the sick, visit those in nursing homes, to bring food and clothing to the poor. And also we did a vacation Bible school every summer. So we were actually catechizing young people from the little mountain communities around Harlan County, Kentucky. It was wonderful.
Wow.
And again, that's where we were able to encounter the other, encounter people who we don't know well, and to try to pass on our faith through our actions to them. See, one of the things that Jesus always talked about in his ministry was encountering people. And Pope Francis has spent a lot of time during his papacy talking about that same phrase, encounter. And I think it's one of the things that we really have to stress when we're trying to evangelize today in the church.
Wow. Yeah, well, this year, from what I'm reading from different messages around the world, is that this is the year. Last year was the year of divine mercy, having mercy on everything, and having God the Father intervene in Jesus. This year is the year of apostolates, getting out there and really identifying yourself with your faith, speaking out, and stop worrying about this political correctness, which really tries to shut you up. And they do it by force and by, well, you see what's going on out there, They're just trying to quiet down our faith and not to say anything. But this is the year of evangelizing, speaking out, going forward. That's what you're hearing too, Bob, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, it goes back way back to Joshua, where he said, I think 4 times in the first chapter of Joshua, we have to stand fast and be solid. And that's not the right 2 words, but I'll find them later. But anyway.
Well, it's like my stomach. My stomach is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Also pretty big. Never mind, John. I have a little message here from the 17th century from Saint Marini di Jesus Torres from Quito, Ecuador. It's Saint Sister Marguerite de Jesus, and it says in here, I won't read the whole thing, but it says Jesus told her, "My justice will be tried to the limit by the evils and sacrileges of these 20th century. I shall punish heresy, blasphemy, and impurity." I found that pretty interesting, being back from the 17th century to currently. Seems like that's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't see too much of that on the college campuses, Tony, to be honest. When we talk to the young people and young people talk to us about their faith, they're really not thinking about God in those terms, about an vengeful God or a punishing God. You know, people are really looking at God for guidance, to help them through their everyday existence. You know, when we talk to the kids about God, we say, where do you find God? And they have a hard time saying, you know, well, I find God in my mother. I find God in nature. I find God in the Mass or in prayer. But when you ask them, where do you think God finds you? They stop, because they don't think of God looking for them. And it's a concept in the Gospels that really gets underplayed sometimes. And young people really like the idea of thinking that God is thinking about them or God is looking for them. And if you go back to Jesus in the Gospels, there's a couple of good occasions that you find Jesus actually going out and searching for someone. Do you remember the story in Mark's Gospel where they all get in a boat and they go across a lake and they get to the other side and they are encountered by this man with 7 demons? He's called Legion. And Jesus encounters him, and Jesus looks at him and says, you know, what's going on? And he just says, stay away from me, Jesus, stay away from me. You know, and Jesus says, no, I'm not going to stay away from you. I'm here to help you. And he casts all the demons out of this guy, Legion. And they all jump in these pigs, and the pigs fly over a cliff and all drown. And then the townspeople get scared. So they say, Jesus, get out of here. So he's going to get back on his boat. And Legion says, take me with you. And Jesus says, no. You have to stay here. I just saved you. Now you have to go tell other people about me so you can evangelize for me. But that was Jesus not waiting for Legion to come to him to find him. It was Jesus getting in a boat, across a lake for one person, and finding that one person, saving that one person, and then getting back in the boat, leaving that person behind and saying, now you have to go do my mission.
Yes.
And see, that's what we were trying to impart in young people today is that, you know, God is always searching for you. And God will find you. God will come where you are. He'll meet you where you are. And God will find you. And when God finds you, you have to be ready. You have to be ready for what God wants you to do. So I think, you know, it's a positive message about who God is and what God wants in a relationship with you. And
how many
people?
Yeah. Now, I was just curious. When you have your group, do people join it? I mean, how's that evangelization occurs at the universities?
So there's a couple ways we do it. So first of all, I sit in the student center. I have a table in the student center a couple of days a week at Central, and I sit with a banner that says Campus Ministry, and kids just come by. I mean, I invite kids over, kids come by, and I've been there 10 years, so at this point I know lots and lots of people. So every day I sit there, and there's, you know, sometimes there's 4, 5, 6, sometimes there's a dozen or so, and we're just hanging around talking to each other, introducing new kids to each other, and just talking about, you know, classes and the drive to school and what's going on in their lives. Someone's up with their girlfriend, someone's mother is sick, and just trying to talk about how that all fits into their everyday life and how God can help them through all that. And so I'm basically someone who is sitting where they are. I come to them. I come out of my office. I come down to the student center. I sit among them, and we encounter each other and we talk. We also have groups where we have kids come to us. We have dinners. We have rosary meetings. We have mass. We have adoration. We have events that we do. We have retreats. So there's a lot of different ways for kids to find us and come to us. But if that's all we did is wait for the kids to come to us, we wouldn't get too far. So what I have to do, what I do every day, is go out to them. I always tell people it's like that. Remember that woman Jane Goodall who went out and encountered the apes out in Africa? She just sat. And they would come up to her and they would look at her and they would come around her. I say sometimes that's what I feel like. Sometimes I'm just in the student center with all these 19, 20, 21-year-old people. And they're coming around looking at me like, who's this old guy in the middle of all this? So it's pretty good. It's pretty fun.
Do they come by and water you once in a while?
Yeah, sometimes they water me to make sure I'm still growing. Exactly. So, and then we have a mass on both campuses on Sunday nights. We've got a good bunch of kids who come. They do the readings. They're the greeters. They do music ministry. All of that. So. That's a good time, and then we have our mission trip that we do during spring break. We go down to New Orleans, Louisiana every year. We've been helping clean up after Hurricane Katrina for the past 6 or 7 years. So it's a busy ministry. We do a lot, but I talk to all kinds of kids, not just Catholic kids. I talk to any kid who wants to come by, atheists, agnostics, the Jewish kids, the Islamic kids, everybody, and it's. People just want to know that someone there cares about them, that someone there is willing to talk to them about the issues that they care about.
Right.
I have a question.
Sure.
You and Tony worked together. That's been a few years ago, though, right?
Back in the 80s.
Now, how has your approach changed from back in the 80s?
Well, it's interesting because back in the 80s I was a salesman and I was a volunteer youth minister. And then I became a professional youth minister, and I learned all about what youth ministry is, what the components of good youth ministry are, and it cracked me up when I learned these things because I looked back at what we did as Tony and I as amateurs, and we did all of those things without knowing that's what we were supposed to do. We did all of those things because it just seemed like the right thing to do. So Tony and I really worked well together. His wife Karen was involved. There were other adults who were involved, but we seemed to feed off each other and work off each other very well. And I think today, I don't think the needs of the young people have changed that much. I think what they're still looking for is authentic people to listen to them, to care about them, and to show them the way, to walk with them as they journey through their faith.
Yeah. And John when we got a hold of John, it's because I was older with two of my own daughters that were involved in the youth group, but John was younger than me. Yeah, and he still is.
Still am. Yeah.
So John went in one direction with youth ministry, and he stuck with that. And I'm really happy that happened. I was called into other ministries and other type of things. There's a time when you're called into something, and there's a time when you're called out. John stuck with that whole thing all along the lines, and from what I hear, he's done a heck of a good job at it too. So it's really nice.
From what I've told you, anyway. So.
Yeah. And for all the things he's taught me, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
And one of the other big.
Yeah.
I like what you said about that how'd you put it? You have to be real?
Authentic.
Yeah, you have to be authentic. And people can spot people that are not authentic in a minute. It's so easy to spot somebody that isn't authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. So, some people will say to me, well, I want you to go to this other school and work there for a couple of weeks, and we'll just send someone else into your other school to do some work while you're gone. And I look at them like, you just think you're going to throw someone else in there, and people are just going to run? I mean, it really has to be a relationship that's built on trust, authenticity, and a knowledge that that we're all going in the same direction. And I think that's one of the things that the Catholic faith really gives us is it gives us a goal. Gives us a direction, and we can always, if we start wandering off the path, we can always get pulled back, and we know what direction we need to go in. And as a minister, when I talk to young people about what they're doing, I can always say, well, you know what you're doing, you know what you should be doing, and you know what the goal is. And so if what you're doing now is not bringing you towards that goal, you've got to readjust a little bit. Sometimes it's, I like the whole image of walking with them on their faith journey, because when you're walking with someone, sometimes you have to pick them up when they stumble and fall. Sometimes you have to kind of steer them in the right direction. Sometimes they walk ahead of you, and you have to catch up to them. So, but the whole thing is we're all on a journey. I'm 57 years old, and I'm not close, hopefully not close to the end of this journey, and I'm not close to where I want to be on this journey. And so when young people talk to me, I don't talk to them like I know it all or I'm an expert on the faith and they should listen to me because I know it all. I talk to them about I'm walking the walk just like you are. I'm struggling just like you are. And together, let's try to follow that path and get where we want to get. And that's salvation is really the ultimate goal. So,
well, my experience with authenticity was I was a hockey broadcaster for 35 years up in Upper Michigan, and doing Division I hockey, Michigan Tech. And I used to do a chapel. We'd play 2 games on a weekend. We'd play on Friday and Saturday nights. Wherever we went or at home, we would always play 2 games. So usually on Friday I'd have a chapel. But then I talked to the football coach, and I said, well, why don't I do a chapel for the football team also? And he said, no, I don't think I want to do that, because he said the last guy I had, who was one of his assistants, was doing a chapel, but the coach said he didn't live what he was teaching.
Gotcha. Yep.
And I don't know how to get back into that. Well, I said, I think I'm pretty close to living what I teach. So he went along with it. The coach spotted it right away.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a strong Christian necessarily, but he knew the guy was fake.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it reminds me, John, if you recall, when we started, and there's a whole mystery to how we got involved with the youth ministry, which I shared earlier in one of these programs. But if you recall, one of the, I think it was Father, what was his name, John? Do you recall? Father
Don, Father Kieran, Father...
Well, it's Father Don, but it was the pastor, Father, it was a W or something like that. But anyway, he wanted us to teach, if you recall, remember he wanted us to teach the Bible and CCD and that type of thing through the youth ministry, and we fought it. We said, no, we don't want to do that. And he says, how do you want to do it? We said, we want to teach it through Christian action and dealing through action. And that's how we did it. We did that for 6.5 years, 13 retreats. Right, John?
Action.
Exactly. And we would do a good spiritual retreat in the fall, and we would do a good work retreat in the spring. And teaching the kids how to pray, how to live their faith, and then actually bringing them to a place where they could actually live out that faith by helping other people. That's what we do in our mission trip every spring with the college kids. We go down and we actually, drywall people's houses who have lost their house in the flood. We put roofs on houses. We work with the mentally challenged kids for a day. We do many projects down there that really help people. And the Appalachia Project goes the same way. We're just helping people who don't have it as well as we do, not only by physically helping them with their needs, but also by being present to them and talking to them and listening to their stories and hearing really where they're coming from and just trying to give them some comfort. So that goes a long way. I mean, it really does.
What's the average wages down there? Some of the people you work with.
Oh, so most of them, a lot of them are on what they call, I don't know what they call it down there. They call it, they collect the check. So they're on welfare. I don't know if it's called welfare down there or not, but they're making maybe, $150 a week, if that. It might be even less than that, $400 a month or something. And they're trying to, live their lives like that. And it's
have you over the past 20 years, have you seen them, get better? Have their homes improved?
Yeah. I mean, the next generation, so like a lot of the kids families we've worked with, the children who are now adults seem to be doing better than their parents were.
Good.
So that's uplifting, to say the least. And the community has embraced that group. And so now when the group comes down, the community's waiting for them. They know they're coming. People come over to say hello. It's really a nice thing. And hopefully it continues for many more years. So,
yeah. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And so, but see, the young people have the energy to make that happen. And that's one of the things we have to do is try to harness that energy and push it in the right direction. And so, if you can get young people to go down and do that kind of service, you could see them blossoming and see them get as much out of the experience as the people they're serving. It's really wonderful. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, I see one of the youth, and I'm sure there's others that went through our program at St. Pius, now helping the church too.
Sure.
And when you see that, you just say, you sit back and say, wow, something clicks,
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, Bob, you've seen that also down with your ministries over the years, I'm sure.
Seeing the people moving on, taking your place.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful when you see that.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, the one thing today is I'm going to be talking with Bob Malafante now, and Bob's a social worker at the high school, so we'll get a perspective of that also. So at the college level, John's working. Just out of curiosity, John, how many of those kids have parents, and how many come from broken homes?
You're talking about the kids at the college that I serve?
Yeah, at the college. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm wondering who's involved with the ministry.
Well, I mean, again, it's a good mix of people. I mean, at both colleges we work with students, we work with staff, we work with administrators and all that. But the students themselves, it's a variety. It's a microcosm of our population in America. So there are some people from diverse households, some people who are living on their own. Some people 18, 19, 20 are living on their own. No parental support whatsoever. We're actually about to open on Thursday. We're going to open a food pantry at our Newman House at Central because we found there's a need at Central Connecticut State University. There's a percentage of the population that's either homeless or have food insecurity issues that they can't get enough food. So we're opening a food pantry to help just for the Central Connecticut community, the college community, to come and get soup and granola bars and cereal and that kind of stuff.
Oh, you are going through with that. That's good.
Yep. Yeah. So
I know you mentioned it to me before, but so that's materializing.
Yeah, the grand opening was going to be this past Thursday, but the storm came, so we're waiting until next Thursday to do it. But again,
wow.
Again, it's a way that we evangelize people is to get them, they're going to come to us, but it's an outreach. It's saying, if you don't want to come to us, we'll come to you. We'll bring you food. It reminds me of another Jesus story. Okay, so you think about in John's Gospel, right at the end of John's Gospel, after Jesus dies and is resurrected, and he's encountered the apostles in the upper room a couple of times. Well, they leave and they go out fishing. The apostles, they go out fishing, and Jesus again comes to them, finds them at their job. And he's on the shore, and he's making breakfast. And they come back, and he says, did you catch any fish? And they say, no. And he sends them back out. And then they catch fish, and they come back in. And Jesus is making breakfast. And they recognize him finally. And that's when Jesus actually gives Peter his mission to say, go out and feed my sheep, take care of my lambs, and feed my sheep. And the thing is, he came to them with food. He came to them where they work. He came to them and said, I'm going to come to you. Since you're not going to come back to me, I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to show you the way. And so even by opening this food pantry, it's a way through the use of food to bring people closer to what we our message is. So anyway.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But we can't forget the other thing, too, with the rich man. When he came up, he says, Jesus, what do I have to do? I do all these things. He says, well, the last thing you have to do is give away all your stuff. And he walked away sad. So it's a question of free will, too, And,
right.
And I'm just simply amazed with some people that experience miracles in front of me, they're near me, and they see them. Then later they deny it. And they lose their faith. They lose a part of their faith. I'm saying, man, how can you do that? You saw it. We witnessed it. We're together with it, And then, but they doubt their faith, It's hard.
I hear you, but it's all a process. And what I tell people is I have these young people for 4 years, basically. Some for 5 years, a couple of them for 6 years, but they're there for 4 years, and so they've had their life with their parents, their faith life with their parents through school, through high school. They've gone to their whatever, they've gone to youth ministry or whatever, and then I get them for 4 years, and then they have to go on and live their lives at their parishes or whatever they're going to do. And so I have them for 4 years. So for that little snippet of time, we just try to walk with them for those 4 years and keep them on track, keep them on the road towards salvation, and that's all we can do. And when they walk away the rest of their lives, if they come back and call and visit, I love it. I love when alumni come back and visit us. But we try to stay as positive as possible in our message. So,
yeah, you remind me of what you had shared with me in earlier days about your walk, being out in the desert. We all find ourselves out in the desert sometime. And it's what we do when we're out in the desert. Even Jesus himself walked out in the desert, and of course he was tempted by the evil one several times, and sometimes we falter and sometimes we don't. But it's like, if I recall correctly, I think you had mentioned about 20 years out in the desert. And I recall even myself saying sometimes, Jesus, you're really getting in the way. I want to do this, and you stop it, preventing me from doing it, And
but one of the things that really helps. One of the things that really helps with that is to realize that the ministry is not my ministry or your ministry. It's God's ministry, and that we're just kind of helping out along the way and being the one who steers it at this point. But it's really God who's steering it, and the Holy Spirit who's steering it. And as long as we continue to realize that it's not ours, it's His.
It's just like, and you bring a good point up, a valid one, and even Bob will agree, I'm sure, is that we're not holier than thou. What we're called to do, we do it out of blind faith. And what I mean blind faith is many a times we have no direction or don't even know what we have to say. But Jesus says, don't worry about it because I'll give you the words to say. So it's a question of allowing Him like the size of a mustard seed, which is very small.
It's funny, Tony, because there's times when kids will come to me with stuff and I'll be flabbergasted with some of the stuff they're going through. And I'll say to myself, what am I going to say to this person? And all of a sudden, there's words coming out of my mouth.
Right.
And they're shaking their head and they're looking at me like, that makes sense. That makes sense. I have no idea where those words came from. No clue.
Right.
But I know where they came from. They came from the Holy Spirit because I opened myself up and allowed that to happen. But it's. Do you have the same experience, Bob?
Ever what?
Do you have that same?
You have the same experience. Where words come into your mouth. I mean,
it happens to me every Tuesday when I go to the nursing home. I do a prayer service over there in Willimantic.
Okay.
And, it's a whole different thing, with those people because, you don't know what they're receiving or what they're not receiving,
Right.
So, but it just seems like if you're open, I mean, the Lord gives you things that to do that are changing people.
Right.
Yeah.
But John, I was going to go back to that first chapter of Joshua. What I meant. You see, Moses was dead, so the Lord said to Joshua, "Prepare to cross the Jordan here with all the people into the land that I will give the Israelites." And he said, "Be firm and steadfast, so that you can give this people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers I would give them. Above all, be firm and steadfast, taking care to observe the entire law which my servant Moses enjoined on you." And I hear, as you're talking, you're always using Scripture and so forth. You're not deviating, not with your own ideas necessarily, just using that the Lord has given us.
Once in a while, but
I see you being firm and steadfast.
Well, I try. Does
that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And sometimes that's what gets you through the day, is to say, I can't do this on my own, so Jesus, take the wheel kind of thing. So
right.
That's one of the prayers the kids love to say is, I can't do this on my own, so Jesus, take the wheel. So
that's right.
Yep.
Well, that's why I go to the junkyard and pick up a couple extra ones. So I know which direction I'm steering,
Oh, boy. Very, very funny.
I got a real good story about that. Where I was Upper Michigan, and we used to get 300 inches of snow a year.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
So we had a lot of snowstorms, and I was coming home from a retreat one night, and I had 150 miles to go, I think. And it was a tremendous snowstorm, and I was going down this road that looked like a goat trail after halfway through the storm. So I'm driving, and I got the sense that Jesus is in the seat next to me, and I said, "Jesus, I'll to hold on to the wheel, but you got to lead me.
Yeah.
I'll keep driving, but you're going to have to lead me because I can't. I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
And I made it through.
You did. Yeah, there you go.
There's
a lot of moments in
story about the wheel.
In my life that went there. Yeah, a lot of moments in my life where that was the case. So, and not just
that reminds me. I was going down 17. It was an ice storm, and as I was coming just up a hill and heading down the hill, I shortly realized that the whole hill was ice. And I looked up, and a guy was trying to flag me to slow down and not to come, but it was too late. I was already sliding, and there was already 2 or 3 cars smashed up already. And I said, "Okay, Lord, it's up to you." And I made it through, and I could see the guys, all 3 of them, scratching their heads. How did he do that?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And I just say, thank you, guardian angels,
Yeah.
So, thank you. By the way, it brings up a good point. Because of some of my old past issues that I used to have, I prayed for more protection, for more angels to surround me and protect me. And I think we all can do that also. If we have like some type of sin that really bothers you, and I found that over the years it really works. And even though sometimes it may penetrate 1 or 2 layers, they can't get to the root. And that I'm very thankful.
I've been finding myself doing that a lot more lately too, and especially praying to my communion of saints, to all the people who have gone before me, who I constantly pray that they can intercede with God to protect me, protect my family, protect people, just to urging them to pray, to talk to God, to intercede for us here on earth. I think intercessory prayer is so important. And it just gives you that little extra security you need in your day, a little bit of confidence to go through your day.
Yeah.
So, I agree.
Exactly.
I talk to kids a lot about prayer and about, because everyone, especially on a college campus, you get so many people who will talk to you about different ways to relieve stress or different ways to get through your day. And some people have weird ideas about how to be stress-free. And a lot of people like to go to some other kind of spiritualities, Buddhist spiritualities, meditation, that kind of stuff, and that's all wonderful stuff. But I tell the Catholic kids, as Catholics, we have a lot of good ways to do that. And prayer is the best way. And prayer, and different kinds of prayer, saying the rosary, intercessory prayer, prayers of petition,
right.
all sorts of ways to just calm yourself down. I always tell them how I get through when I have to go for an MRI. I hate the MRI machines because I get claustrophobic. And I just constant Hail Marys while I'm in there, and it soothes me and it calms me and it gets me through. And don't just pray on Sunday at Mass, or don't just pray when you need something. Pray all the time. Pray as much as you can, just to calm yourself. Just to calm yourself.
Yeah. Well, there's two prayers, and I've shared this over the web and over this radio station. Is that there's two things. There's two things I really pray for, and one is to trust God more, and the second to pray for wisdom.
Yep.
And it's what we had previously mentioned on the air is that if you can pray for those two things, and you get blessed with the wisdom, things will come through your mouth that you're going to say, "Wow, where did that come from?" And people say, "Well, where did you hear that?" Just say, "I don't know. I just heard it for the first time." And it's that type of thing, And we all share that. We share that, but you gotta say, "Yes, Lord, come into my life." You have to invite him in. It's easy. Just say, "Hey, Lord, help me." That's all. He'll knock the door down.
And that's one of the things Pope Francis said when he was in Philadelphia this past year. He talked about knocking on the door and having Jesus open the door of the churches. But he said, when you knock on the door of the church and you open the door, Jesus is not inviting you into the church. Jesus wants to come out. Jesus wants to come out of the church and into the community and encounter people. And so one of the things we look at with that is to say, have we boxed Jesus in and holding on to him for ourselves, and do we need to let him out into the world through us and get out there and encounter people with Jesus?
I like that.
And this is the year of that, exactly what you said, John. And that's very, 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 very holy, and that's the Holy Spirit speaking, because this is the year of evangelization, where you got to get out of your shell, you got to pick up your cross, and you got to get out there and help other people. You have to evangelize. That's the gifts that we were given through baptism. We just got to not be afraid of what people are going to say to us or how they're going to ridicule us, because you know what? They're all hungry for the truth. And over the past few years, all we've been hearing is a bunch of lies, and it still goes on. Where they call this fake news, And when you check into it, some of it is, if not most of it is. It's propaganda. And boy, I know propaganda from the military. If you tell somebody to be afraid long enough, they're going to be afraid. It's just that way.
Pope Francis is giving us a good example of opening that door and letting Jesus come out.
Yes.
That is a good example.
I have a doctor that did a biopsy on me a couple weeks ago, and I said to her, I like you. She said, "Well, you better, because I'm going to have a knife in my hand." But she's so cute and so wonderful. And I said, "Are you a Catholic?" I said, "Are you a Catholic?" She says, "No, I'm a Buddhist." But you know what she said? She says, "I really love your Pope."
Isn't that something? Yeah.
She said, "I really love your Pope."
That's beautiful.
And that's it.
That's evangelization right there.
He's opening the door.
Yep. Just by being a little bit more reasonable with people and showing a heart of mercy. And that's the other thing where we always have to show, So.
And I'm glad to hear what your approach, John, to get out there, to reach out. And I recall one of the times when I came up to visit you at the university, and you said, "No, I got to go to the student center. I got to sit down." Remember, I was leaving. But next time
you were going to Dunkin'.
You buy the coffee, not me.
that is the best part. Is just meeting. I have a couple of kids who they're seniors now, and one of them was sitting with me the other day and said, "How did we meet for the first time?" I said, "I think you were walking by the table, and I said something to you, and you stopped and you looked at me like, who the heck are you?' And then you came over and talked to me for a minute, and then the next time you walked by, same thing happened, and after the third or fourth time, you started sitting down next to me and talking to me, and 4 years later, we're good friends because, we just encountered each other, and that's basically how it starts. You just...
And you remind me, when I came back from France with the miraculous water, from St. Bernadette, and all of a sudden I started giving out these little vials of the miraculous water to people. I've given away over 1,000 so far. And just that introduction and strangers just saying, I have something for you. It's like a question of discernment. And it's something tells me, just give it to that person. And they're jubilated by receiving something like the simplest of things, the little vials. And then you hear of the miracles later. And I'm saying, wow, that's pretty cool. It's another way of evangelizing. We have many tools in our arsenal, but we just got to get them out and start using them,
I agree. We have to use all our tools, and like you said, we have to get them out there. And everybody has their own gifts. I could not do what you do, Tony. I could not do that kind of ministry because that's not what I'm called.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
No, you're not called to that.
Yeah.
And that's
I can't
beautiful.
talk about the way you talk about things. I can't talk about my faith that way. I have to talk about my faith the way I encounter it, the way I experience it, to be authentic. And you're authentic in what you do, and I'm authentic in what I do. And together, hopefully, we're moving people in the right direction.
Right. Well, because over the years, how we used to argue back and forth. You finally realize how right I really am.
What do you mean used to argue? Come on now.
No, John is the one that, when you went to Medjugorje,
yeah,
and you were praying for John,
yeah,
and then he came forward. You remember?
Yeah, we were at my father's house when we agreed to go. I remember that distinctly. And
I waited 2 years for you to say that. Remember, John?
Yeah. And we had to sleep in a pull-out couch together. That was the most horrifying experience of my life. Never heard anybody snore like that before. So, but talk about a cleansing experience. I tell that story a lot too. Going to Medjugorje and going up to that St. James Church on the top of that hill, and just walking in and just church full of people, standing room only, and everyone singing Ave Maria. And just tears just pouring out of me because it was like a total cleansing of what is going on here? How is this so holy? And what a beautiful experience that was.
Remember the other time too that we went up to at the top of the hill with the cross.
Yes.
And we helped the old ladies get through that one very rough area, dragged them up, and we came down totally exhausted. And when we got to the base of the hill, if you recall, the girls were having cappuccino that came on our the trip with us. And they said, we're going up the hill to say the rosary. And you looked at me, and I looked at them and said, why not? So we had that cappuccino. And then we started to say the rosary, and then we were very upset because we were like floating up the mountain, Bob. It was like weird. It's like we went walking, and we didn't finish the rosary, but we just kind of like floated up the mountain. It was like we had full of energy and everything.
Yeah, that was a good trip. That was a good trip. And you know what it is?
That's a
put yourself in a situation like that, sometimes you get just energy. Your energy level goes up. So,
well, and that's what I want the listeners to know, that sometimes you got to go search for these truths. You just can't sit home and say, God will come to you, but you got to get out there and invite him in. You got to open that door. He'll come through it, but you got to open the door. And he'll come to you, and he'll give you more than you could ever dream of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we've been blessed. So we've been blessed, and I'm very thankful for that. But we still have our struggles, We still
I agree.
struggle.
I agree.
It's not easy. And it's even worse with your own family. It's like, and there's a reason for it. Prophets are never recognized in their hometown or even their own family. It's very difficult to do that. I'm very blessed to have a wife that's a Carmelite.
That's one of the things is, sometimes you have to leave the ministering to the people who are closest to you, to other people, because you're not going to have that effect on them. Other people will.
Yeah, didn't we do that with youth, though? We did that with the youth with my daughters. Remember, if you recall, John?
Yeah.
I had you tell them the same thing that I told them, but they would say, oh, boy, John said this.
And I see it all the time with, I'll talk to kids about certain things and get a whole different reaction than if their parents said it to them or if someone else might have said it to them. It's just you are called to be the gift to certain people, and other people are called to be the gift to other people. And we have to, like you said, put ourselves out there and understand that you could be doing nothing. You could be going to Dunkin' Donuts in the morning and say a couple of nice things to the person at the window, and you've changed their day totally. And you don't even know you're ministering to that person. You're just trying to get your coffee, but by the way you act or the witness you give to that person, you've changed their whole day, and you didn't even know it. And so that's what we're called to do day in and day out, time in and time out, is to try to be as open as we can to the Spirit with whoever we're talking to, because you don't know what kind of change you're making in that person's life.
Well, that's true. That's a good analogy.
I'm blessed to be surrounded by people all day. When I'm on the campus, it's surrounded by hundreds of people all day, and I can encounter and I can make a difference in the lives of so many people. Because God put me there at this time in my life.
Yeah,
and
that's
those
true.
people there. Yeah. So it's a fascinating ministry. Youth ministry was a great ministry. College campus ministry is a great ministry, and who knows what I want to be called to next. But that's what one of my big prayers right now is to know God's will and to know that this is the right place for me. But if it's not, for God to bring me where He needs me to be, because I think through what I've been through in my life and the training I have, I can still make a difference for Him in the world. So.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said to my little Saturday morning groups after Mass, I said, look, there's only one word we have to be concerned with at our age, and that's called eternity. And we have to strive to get there. And we have to take as many, and I always say this, all I want to do is save one more soul. One more soul, just one more, Lord. Let me save one more. Because that's what we're called to do, evangelizing. And you do it blindly. Like my mother said, she said, why are you doing this? I said, Mom, I don't know, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to become a Carmelite because I was called out of sleeping. And these words, I want you to die a Carmelite. I says, it's the faith of a mustard seed. Just blindly go forward and see what happens. Boy, I tell you, it's been really a good ride. And for all the people that are out there that are not, that have just think that you don't have to listen to the words. Just do it. Just turn to somebody if you feel lost or you feel helpless or you feel ill. Just turn to somebody that that has some type of religious background. Just ask for their assistance. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to have people surrounding us and helping us,
By the way, here's a Christian act that just came across the wire. That's really good. It says Michael Jordan is playing peacemaker between former Knicks star Charles Oakley and team owner James Dolan.
That's funny. Good for him.
Isn't that good? I mean, there's an example right there. I don't know how Christian these guys are, but it's a Christian act.
Yeah. Right. Oh, it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's good, and this was a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate being able to talk to you two guys. It's really helped me out today. It's good to talk to people who are like-minded, who are faithful men, and who are out there doing God's work in the world. So, good for you guys for having this show.
I want you to repeat who told the story about the dog and eternity.
Oh, that's the one that I shared.
Share that with me again. I didn't quite get the first part.
Oh, you didn't? Okay,
No.
hang on one second. I'm trying to find it.
That's a beautiful story about eternity.
Right. So it says it's actually death, a wonderful way to explain it.
Right.
A sick man turned to his doctor as he was preparing to leave the examination room, and he said, "Doctor, I am afraid to die. Tell me, what lies on the other side?" Very quietly, the doctor said, "You don't know. You're a Christian man, and you don't know what's on the other side?" The doctor was holding the handle of the door. On the other side came a sound of scratching and whining, and as he opened the door, a dog sprang into the room and leaped on him with an eager show of gladness. Turning to the patient, the doctor said, "Did you notice my dog? He's never been in this room before. He didn't know what was inside. He knew nothing except that his master was here, and when the door opened, he sprang in without fear." I know little of what's on the other side of death, but I do know one thing. I know that my master is there, and that is enough.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Why don't you email me that, Tony, that story? You can.
For $9.95.
The check's in the mail.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Check's in the mail, Tony.
Yeah. And don't hold your breath, right?
Well, John Campbell, a wonderful introduction to you, and I know Tony's talked about you a lot, and it's good to meet you here on the radio and hear your story, and I think you're in the right place.
Yeah,
and,
I think so too.
I think you're a wonderful example from what you tell me. It's really inspiring.
Thank you so much.
And,
I appreciate
John,
what
in the future, if something comes up that you think would be of interest to our listeners, just get a hold of me, and we'll try to get you back on, because I know there's more to the story, Okay, buddy?
Yeah, perfect. And I thank you so much for having me, and you guys are doing a great thing here, so keep up the good work.
Okay.
Yeah, well, God bless. You too. Very important.
All right.
Okay, that's the messenger for this week. We'll be back again next week, same time, same station on WCAT Radio. In the meantime, may God bless you, each and every one of you, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
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 We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.